Another function that's very, very hard to understand is the offset function. But this function is incredibly powerful. Let's take a look at Excel's help. I'll type equal offset, type the opening parentheses, and then type Control A to open up the function arguments dialog box. It says that offset returns a reference to a range that's a given number of rows and columns from a given reference. In other words, you have to specify a starting point and then tell Excel to move down a certain number of rows, write a certain number of columns, and then it specifies how many rows and how many columns to return. That's pretty arcane stuff, isn't it? But here's where it really comes in handy. On my worksheet, I have a list of sales. There's months going down the side and sales in column B. Every month, I open the worksheet, I add a new month, and I add a new sales figure. I want to find out the sum of the last 12 months. And I don't want to have to adjust that formula month after month after month. We're going to build this in a few steps. The first step is to figure out how many sales numbers we have at the current time. Formula for how many. Now, I don't want to build a count function that would count from C2 to C18. I want that to expand every month. I'll come here and choose equal count and just put in B colon B. Tells me that we have 17 values. Let's check and see if that worked. If I highlight those numbers, you'll see in the name box to the left of the formula bar that I've chosen 17 rows by one column. What about the sales heading in B1? Well, the count function specifically only counts numeric values. It ignores text. This will work perfectly provided we never skip any blank rows in our workbook. Okay, so now that we know how many rows we have, let's start to build the offset function. We want to add up some numbers, so we start with equal sum, and then type offset. I want to start from cell B2, my first sales figure, and then go down a certain number of rows. How many rows do I want to go down? Well, first, I have to figure out how many rows we have today, so that's the count, and then subtract 12. Next, how many columns do I want to go over? Well, I'm starting in the right spot. I don't want to go over any column, so I will put a 0 here. Now I specify what shape of a range I want. I'd like to have 12 rows because I want the last 12 months. So 12 is the height, and for the width, it's one column. After finishing the offset formula, we have to put a closing parentheses to close the sum formula. 78,078. Let's see if that worked. I'll highlight the last 12 values and check down in the status bar, and sure enough, the sum is 78,078. Let's test and see if it works for the next month. Type September 1st, 2008, and put in a sales figure. Excel automatically updated our formula because we now have 18 values, and so Excel was able to start adding in row 8 instead of row 7. Again, this is really obscure, but there are times where you need to build this spreadsheet with an executive dashboard to show you the running 12 months, and the offset function will solve the problem. Let's move on.